Thanks for joining us, and I appreciate the time and effort that you're putting in today. I suppose the final session is the maintaining high levels of hygiene into 2021 and beyond. That's not to say we wouldn't be doing it anyway, but I suppose with COVID-19, I suppose it's focused everyone's minds on the future of cleaning and hygiene going forward. It's probably fair to say that workplace hygiene has never been so front and centre with all of us at the minute, and it certainly is a hugely talked about issue, and I suppose it's affected everybody professionally and privately. So first of all, I'll just introduce the people that are here for those people who don't know. So we have Matt Hodgkins from TTS, we have Adam Thorne from Thorne Environmental, we have Loretta Lamargese from KCP, and we have Dana Garrity, who's the Bunzl Sustainability Manager. Matt, maybe if I start with you, how do you see things shaping up for 2021, and what differences, if any, do you see going forward in terms of cleaning and hygiene practices for the coming year? Matt, I don't have any audio unless, is your audio on?
You got me there?
Excellent. Yeah, Matt, we have you now. Thank God for that.
Apologies, the microphone was off. Typical. Well, thanks for inviting me along. Hello, everybody. Yeah, what do we see? Okay, ultimately, I think what we're seeing with the pandemic unfolding is a rush now to evaluate processes, cleaning processes, regarding keeping buildings and everywhere clean. And things are, certain processes are now coming under question. They're no longer acceptable. Certainly, as you start to layer in requirements for infection control, disinfection, keeping clean and safe, there's a huge amount of challenge now for cleaning companies to adjust to. So yeah, we can see quite clearly there's a move away potentially from old products or methods clean surfaces that have always been acceptable for many years. They're no longer acceptable, and there's a definite demand from the market for other more hygienic methods of cleaning, more hygienic products, tools, equipment to counteract the pandemic. I think just to the last presenter's piece on the stage just now, she was mentioning certainly the challenges with hand hygiene, and that the pandemic and coronavirus is likely to be with us for quite some time. So yeah, it's sort of a step change really, John, that we can see in the market, and a definite rush to find better ways of cleaning, better processes, better tools, and ultimately methods that will keep our cleaning teams safe whilst they go about exposing themselves, on a daily basis to the virus that's out there in the market.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. Adam, what's your take on what's been going on?
Well, for us, we had all our plans like everybody else for 2019. We'd these great ideas and with our bio-based refuse sacks. We thought that we'd be converting people over from standard refuse sacks over to these plant-based products, which kind of all went out the window, obviously with the pandemic kicking in. So not that it's gone on the back foot for us, but obviously it slowed it down, and we've had to concentrate on the things like disposable plastic aprons and gloves and all those other products that we can make from flexible films that we do. I suppose for 2021, it's more of the same really for us. I mean, if you don't mind, I'm going to read you a little paragraph from an article I wrote on strategy some time ago. I'll read it out here. It is becoming more apparent to businesses that the forces shaping strategy and organizations today are dramatically different from those before the demand for environmental responsibility became a bigger issue. As we move further into the 21st century, it is becoming increasingly imperative that companies which are organised and managed according to the past need to direction of that change to ensure their competitive survival is towards green issues and issues of environmental efficiency. As the world's resources continue to diminish, corporate environmental responsibility will no longer be a matter of choice, but will become a matter of survival. Now, that's from an article that I wrote nearly 20 years ago, and it's more true now than ever before. I don't know, have you seen the film by, what's his name, David Attenborough? Arriving with Thomas. It's a fabulous film. I recommend watching it, and it goes on about the growth in population and deforestation and the reduction in wildlife, and all of it confirmed that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change viewpoint that there's a show that there's an excess of 550 billion tons of carbon now in our atmosphere. This is an emergency as we see it, and we need to do something about it. For home environment, obviously, being in the name, it's been a core focus of ours for the last 20 years. And we've tried to bring in new products that help us to be more environmentally friendly, with biodegradable, compostable refuse sacks, thinner films, so we're using less resources, less raw materials, and there, at the end of the day, it all comes down to reduce the amount of CO2 that the products that we put out there, the impact that they have. And then now with our new bio-based carbon capture products, they actually have a negative carbon footprint. So it's minus 0.2 is the carbon footprint of these refuse sacks per kilos per kilo. So when you compare that to a normal refuse sack, you're saving 2.87 kilos per kilo. What that means is for every ton of these refuse sacks that you use, you're taking 2.87 tons of carbon from the atmosphere. And whether that's put into the ground in landfill, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but obviously there's better things that we can do with it, like recycling and that. So, from our point of view, it's all about carbon, and this is really what we need to focus on now for 2021. Let's get back to thinking like this, because it is very important.
Thanks, Adam. I agree. And a statistic that came out during the week, which I read, was that Irish fishermen and women have taken 400 tons of plastic out of the Irish Ocean in the last year, which is extraordinary. And I suspect it's the tip of the iceberg. So
it's a major litter problem that we have. I would say it's not necessarily a plastic. It's a litter problem. We should be using plastics more efficiently.
Thanks, Adam. The one thing that I suppose, having listened to all of the presentations and seen all the booths this morning, what struck me from everybody that's contributed is the whole piece around the education. It's not all about product, it's about educating and training people going forward. Loretta, the KCP message was very clear on that this morning. That's obviously part of the strategy going forward for yourselves.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely critical, and that's why I was mentioning during my intervention this morning that the two things goes in parallel, isn't it? So from one side we have the core activity of facility management, which is enhancing the protocols and the intensified cleaning, and the cleaning best practice that we must sustain over 2021. But in parallel, we have the piece of education and communication at every level of the organization. It's with our partners, with our colleagues, right? So it's a shared responsibility and has to be a shared learning and best practice that we must sustain as enterprises, because otherwise, we put at risk all the good work that we are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, your message again was very much focused on education, training, giving people the understanding of what's happening within the healthcare sector in particular. That's obviously a key message for SCJ 21 as well.
100%. I think a lot of our experience in the past have been through the healthcare sector, and it's taken that piece and it's sharing that piece across the wider sectors and how they can implement a similar strategy that we know works. We know, behaviour change is going to be key. It's going to be paramount to getting any change across the board in the workplace environment. So, and it's getting that education piece to be able to do that. So as I explained in the presentation, it takes approximately 7 touches to change a behaviour. And that's going to be key for workplaces to be able to get that message across. But it can be done. And, today was fantastic. It was great to hear the other presenters, and I think the message across the board was very similar, where it was meant to be or not. I think we're all looking at it from the same perspective, which is absolutely fantastic, and it will give us that element to be able to go out to the public with that message and try change that way of thinking.
I'm glad I wasn't eating a scone when your presentation was on, to put it that way.
The optimum time for a presentation.
Okay. Eugene, again, diversity. It's all about educating. It's about ready to reopen guides, all of that type of stuff. There's a whole piece that diversity are doing around that. Again, are you looking at more of the same for 2021?
More of the same, safer way. It's clear that, who's sitting around this table is 100% comfortable at this new way of communicating. Put me in front of an audience at any time, the theatre style, I'll be a lot more comfortable. It's just, it's a very strange way. Yeah, diversity has been driving sustainability for a long, long time. Innovation, bringing innovation in new ways, safer ways, being daily basis. Suppose doing it in a safer environment.
Right. And again, guiding people. The products speak for themselves, but it's the correct application is obviously really important for sites and for customers who may not be aware of exactly how the product is best served and best suited. So I think there is a part to play in all of that as well. Yasmin, you have a unique kind of product in terms of the handle hygiene, which is a very, very good fit, I would think, particularly for the climate that we find ourselves in currently. How do you see things panning out for 2021?
Well, I think the thing is that, at the moment now, like I can see a lot of people are working from home today, even the speakers, which is great. And I think that there will be still some element of working from home. It's really about us taking back charge, because it looks like I said in my presentation, it looks like coronavirus is here for much longer. I know that there was in the news today, they're talking about that they wouldn't be able to vaccinate everybody within the population until, at least they're estimating now, and this depends on so many factors, doesn't it, when the vaccine comes in, until the end of 2022. So it's about keeping businesses open, because we see it now, we're in level 5. Businesses are suffering, like I was in town, I live in Tullamore, and I was in town yesterday, and I got parking. You can never get parking in Tullamore, in any town in Ireland, parking is always difficult, and I had my pick of parking. So I think it's all about getting businesses back to work safely, getting people back into their offices safely, children back at, they're back at school, but keeping everybody as safe as possible. And then whatever we have to do to implement that. And it speaks to what the other presenters were saying earlier, is we're taking lessons, like handle hygiene was originally developed for hospitals, It was originally developed because the inventor, his father, was very sick in hospital, and he got MRSA. And so he realized, what's the major touch point in this place? And it was door handles is the major touch point. So that's where handle hygiene came. And it's kind of bringing the learnings that were in the medical profession for years. And I know in a presentation area, they talked about breaking the infection chain. so it's bringing this into businesses, pubs, restaurants, all of this kind of thing, just to keep people safe and keep businesses running. That's where I see 2022 going. 2020, yeah.
It's it's a good point, and I know we've all focused on COVID-19 for very good reason, but at some point in the future, COVID-19 will diminish, and it will lessen. The impact will have lessened. But I suppose the learning for us is that the practices that we implement now as distributors, as manufacturers, as customers, that won't change going forward, because there has been a sea change in terms of the way we're going to do business, regardless of COVID-19 or in spite of COVID-19.
And actually, just to put in there, I was in Hong Kong just after SARS had finished, and I was remembering this, and people were still wearing masks. People were still, and they still are to this day in China and Hong Kong, and you saw they were very quick to adapt the masks because they had learned the lessons from SARS years before we had.
Yep. Absolutely. Diana, perhaps a good for you to Bunzl Sustainability Manager hat on. How do you see 2021?
Sure. Well, firstly, I'd just like to say very well done to all the suppliers today. I found the sessions just so interesting, and I think the common thread is that, we're all looking at, well, as we've touched on even in this presentation and this discussion, that, COVID has been here. It's been something that we've all had to adapt our businesses and our lifestyles to. And now it's a matter of looking at, well, what's ahead in 2021? I agree that, and it's very interesting to see from our customers and from our own business that sustainability is still something that is really key to customers, and looking at how, while ensuring health, safety, and correct cleaning, we can still maintain and companies can still maintain the really robust targets they've set around sustainability, such as plastic reduction, packaging reduction, looking at energy efficiency. A lot of those points have been touched upon with our various suppliers today, which has been really interesting and great to see. And I think moving forward to 2021, we're really looking at, I guess, looking at how can we now move forward to this new normal, which I think we're all tired of hearing about, and work forward in a sustainable way. Of course, back, in our initial lockdown in March and April, it was really a matter of, how do we remain safe? How do we remain secure? And, whatever methods or volumes of product or equipment are necessary to keep us all safe is what, was done, and rightly was done. Now we're looking at how can we do this sustainably going forward. And I think it's really encouraging to hear today all the various examples of sustainability initiatives through our suppliers. And, we ourselves focused on responsible sourcing and looking at where our products are coming from, manufacturing footprint, transport footprint. All of that is still so critical and can really make a big difference in the footprint of ourselves and our customers moving into 2021. So I think sustainability and innovation within the post-COVID context will all bring together this new normal that will remain focused on sustainability.
Thank you. And while you were talking, I was thinking to myself, in light of what's happened in the last couple of weeks around certain products brought into the country and the effect that's had, it is refreshing to have, marquee suppliers and manufacturers here, whose products are proven and tested time and time again. And it goes to prove that, stay with the major manufacturers, stay with the people who know what they're doing, and you don't get the issues like we've seen in the press recently. It just doesn't happen. So I suppose there is comfort in that. The effective cleaning and sustainability, Dana.
Losing you there, John.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, you're just breaking up slightly. Repeat
that was my best moment as well. So you missed that. I can't possibly repeat the question. So No, I'm just saying that it is a balancing act between sustainability, effective products, the virucidals, for example, that are needed to fight the coronavirus and others. So it is a balancing act, and again, it comes down to education. And as Adam is saying, we have a responsibility as manufacturers, as suppliers, as distributors to put people in the right direction. And I suppose that's a key message for me as well today.
And just picking up on that, John, I think that, that's really what responsible sourcing is all about. That is why we dig so deep in our supply chains, to ensure that we're partnered with suppliers like all of you on the call today, who we know we can trust, we know have proper responsible supply chains, so that, we don't arrive at an issue like we've heard in Ireland this week, where we are not sure that we have responsible products, we have safe products, and sustainable products. So yes, really, really important.
I suppose, would you like to sum up in terms of what you want to do, Matt, for next year? How would you sum up what's this year been like and what you see for next year?
Yeah, I mean, if I can touch on the sustainability piece just a little bit and wrap up from a TTS perspective. I think TTS for many years have been striving to set a gold standard as a manufacturer in northern Italy. A lot of our products are being constantly monitored for their carbon footprint. Products and our business activities as well. Our Magic Trolley range and some other products that we have are certified internationally as carbon neutral. This is measured every year, and we offset the carbon effect by the donation to reforest an alpine forest. I think last year it was something like 55 hectares to offset the carbon that's created in putting our products out into the market. So that's one thing. Secondly, some of our products are manufactured using plastic second life raw material, which means they're up to 50% recycled products, plastics that's built into the manufacture of those. And then ultimately at the end of life, that means that those products can be fully recyclable, 100%. So that's another piece. From a supply chain perspective, when we're looking for raw material, almost all of our raw material that comes into our factory in Italy comes in from less than 40 kilometers away. So again, we're trying everything we can to reduce the amount of transport and CO2 and the damaging effects for the environment in terms of our production. And then in our textile factory, the roof, if you ever get the chance to come over to Italy, the whole roof is covered with solar panels. And the plant is completely off-grid, 100% off-grid for all of the manufacturer on a yearly basis. I think it's capable of producing up to 330,000 kilowatts of power for us, and that's what we have. So ultimately, with that backing us up, TTS for next year will continue to use our core competency and understanding in healthcare and our expertise that meet the new demands in the market for our cleaning companies, people cleaning, fighting the fight against corona. And we'll continue to develop products that will allow, nicely designed, to allow them to be safe and clean more effectively. That's the plan from our perspective in 2021.
Thanks, Matt. Adam, Thorn Environmental, real cradle to grave sustainability story. I expect that's going to be the message again for you for.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, like with all the delays that we've had with the pandemic, we're going to be obviously pushing our existing bio-based refuse sacks and bin liners, and hopefully now then we'll be able to push back to technology and other products like the aprons and the gloves and satchel bags for the couriers like DHL and companies like that. To try and push the technology into those other products. And we always have our eye out, sort of new technologies and new legislations that could be coming down the road, and how we can bridge the gap between what legislation is coming down the road and what our customers need to do to get ready for this, and join the two of them together and come up with some innovations solve that problem before it becomes a problem.
Thanks, Adam. Eugene, I do appreciate that you're not in front of your normal audience and that you're I know you own a tie, you just don't have one on this morning, but I know you do have one, at least one. So in terms of diversity for next year? You take that to a whole new level, you know that, but anyway.
Part anyway, yeah.
So diversity.
Yeah, well, looking into 2021, coming to terms with 2020 and how we've all managed to work within the chaos that COVID has brought us. Face it, we were, back in January, we were preparing for what we thought was the chaos of Brexit. Still, Brexit doesn't seem too much of a challenge for us as such. Versi have always been driven sustainable solutions. Also, people, so people, planet, profit, their mission statement, so to speak. But it's very much about people now, our people, how we communicate with people. But I suppose looking into 2021, me personally, and I tried to drive it through our sales team, is that we focus on being proactive in the chaos and try and manage our processes a bit better. Try and come away. There has been opportunity for every business in the chaos of COVID. Hasn't been all bad in business, but to come away, learn from it, and come away with something tangible. And I suppose out of 2020 and into 2021, this sounds like I'm really going to suck up to you now. But I think probably continue to develop our partnership with the likes of who have been very important, big partner of diversity when it comes to building service contracts. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Eugene.
So,
thanks. Karen. Sorry, thanks, Eugene. We're life has changed slightly for salespeople. We now operate in a virtual world as we see today. Does that pose challenges for SCJ next year, or how do you see that working for you?
No, I think I don't think it's a challenge. I think it's it's how you adapt to the change. I mean, before COVID hit, end of 2019, I think the buzzword out there was sustainability. It was where people were focusing. It was, what everybody understands we need to do. Certainly our owner of SC Johnson, it's something that is very, very close to his own heart. He spends a lot of his own personal time, cleaning up beaches, and he's very focused in that element, and he wants to bring that across into the SC Johnson business. And we've looked at some of our heavier duty soaps. We've changed our scrubbing agents to be aspartame, which is a walnut shell extract, and our packaging now is recyclable. That's the bottom line of what we're trying to do. We're trying to look at our footprint. All of our ingredients are sourced from a green list. So that was definitely the focus pre-COVID, and it will continue to be the focus as we continue. But I do think the world has changed, and I think it's changed for good. I don't think we'll ever get back to where we were. So I do think it definitely is a case of adapting to this new world. But like Eugene has said, it will bring opportunity. And I do think we now have a platform, particularly in hygiene, we have a platform to really grab people's attention and to get them to really understand the importance of hygiene. We put this a lot of the time in hospitals, and we put a focus in hospitals, and where hand hygiene people has assumed that it's important, and it is important, but it's also important in other elements. We just don't see it as often, and I think COVID has been that wake-up call that we potentially needed. over the past number of years, I mean, we've had hints of epidemics or pandemics, and they've never taken off. And, you know, the public has never really set up and taken notice of it. And I think now, you know, that opportunity is here, so we can actually speak to people on a level and really get them to understand how to use these products. And, you know, and again, innovation is going to be key, because it is a new world. So, you know, what else can we bring to the table moving forward? But definitely it has changed, and, you know, I'm excited for what's to come. You know, change isn't always bad.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yasmin, last word.
Just in terms of our strategy going forward to 2021, it's about keeping businesses open, really, and keeping people in jobs and businesses open. So that's where we're really focused on. In terms of sustainability, hand hygiene is actually made in Ireland. And I saw a question came in from Declan there, just on how we're going to be ready to cope with the key peaks and troughs of demand through second waves and third waves, and oh my gosh, lots of waves of coronavirus. And I think for us, our sanitizer comes from the UK, so, you know, everything is within very close. And I suppose that's adding as well to what Adam and Matt and lots of people were talking about our miles, you know, and our carbon footprint and keeping that down.
We won't mention Brexit, so in that breath, we'll leave that for another conversation, okay? Loretta, last word to KCP.
Yes, I think 2020 has been the year of the reaction, right? You know, the COVID came quite suddenly. We had to react quickly. The facility management industry and KC as well, you know, we had this new situation. I think that 2021 will be the year where we have digested this new standards, and we will need to sustain. As producers, you know, we will have to look at our strategy. We are looking at our strategy in terms of also answering one of the questions that is there on the chat, you know, sustain our stock, you know, and be more ready than we were at the beginning of 2020 to sustain the market demand, for sure.
Thank you, Loretta. Well, look, I'd like to. I'm conscious of time, and I'm conscious of people's time, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you to the 6 suppliers that are on this roundtable discussion. I'm very conscious of the other suppliers who gave of their time, effort this morning in the background. So to all of those other suppliers, I'd like to say a big thank you on behalf of Bunzl Cleaning and Safety Supplies for taking the time in conjunction with these major manufacturers to come along today and help us out. So it is much appreciated. So I suppose in summary and to finalise, you know, the workscape, the workplace landscape, I should say, has changed due to COVID-19. But I suppose the heartening thing for me is that what hasn't changed is the wealth of knowledge and experience from both BCSS and our supply chain manufacturers in meeting the challenges that may lie for next year and beyond that. We are here as a company to support and to educate sites and customers and work on behalf of our customers to the end users, utilising a large range of best-in-class products, as has been demonstrated here today. So finally, for everybody that's taken part today, from a customer perspective, from a supplier perspective, and indeed from a staff perspective here in Bunzl Cleaning and Safety Supplies, I want to thank you all and wish you all a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.